One of the things that we talked about is this idea that this big question: do you own it, or does it own you? Because I think a lot of people have lives that maybe, or parts of lives that they don't feel like they really owned, or like they authored themselves. It sort of just has accumulated over time, and they find themselves in a certain spot, and maybe they feel like, to a certain degree, their house or their car or other commitments have kind of are in the
Right.
driver's seat, no pun intended, in a way that they themselves, maybe if they could wind the clock back and mindfully kind of create their future, they maybe wouldn't have sketched it out that way. So, what are you seeing in terms of sort of lives and how stuff can end up owning people to maybe a greater degree, and the relationships gets reversed and maybe a little bit toxic
Yeah,
even in
I don't
certain
know. I guess what
cases.
comes to mind maybe as a starting place in answering this is just even our own experience of, I think, if we go back to times when our boys were young and wanting to provide good things for them, right? Like, and the questions that we had to ask ourselves regarding, like, how much of a house can we afford? Or what are we pursuing in our careers and why? And how much of our energy are we going to give to those things in a kind of with the intention in mind of like making sure that we have enough energy to kind of pull back into the family, and just knowing firsthand how complicated it is sometimes to find the answers to those questions. Because I think most of us as parents, and I guess I'm speaking to maybe like other people who are sitting in family systems with kids in this specific referencing, but um, man, we really want to do well by our kids. And then we just live in a world right now where there are so many opportunities for our kids. You know, there's a lot of us live in homes that are larger than previous generations, and what we provide in material ways with regard to those things are more. The activities that our kids are signing up for a lot of times are more in terms of the level of involvement, and they're more in terms of their cost, they're more in terms of their time, they're more maybe in terms of their reach with kids traveling and all of those pieces as well. And so there's just even kids who, we've certainly dealt with needing to access like occupational therapy or different resources like that in our family life. And so families who maybe have some different needs that they're dealing with their kids also have access to more. um, and so those layers factor in. And so how do we decide um, which of those things are the things that we want to be investing in, and when too much of a good thing is still too much. I think those are the places that I see, again, like our own lives having been affected, and where we had to continue making mindful choices, kind of making our best call every step of the way, and continuing to be aware and adjusting in real time. And then certainly things that I see a lot of families dealing with, of trying to make these decisions, um, and uh, and maybe having a tendency to overload their plate, again with the intention of trying to do well by their kids.
So I'm sure there's no perfect answer, but what when does the stuff become too much? So there's lots of things that we, to your point, things that we can do, and things that maybe in low doses or in moderation can be, very healthy. Things like, say, exercise, or having a social life, or maybe even unwinding once in a while after work with a beer or something. But all of these things can be taken too far. Do you see that happening with some frequency? And like, how do you know what's
Yeah,
what's too
well, I think
far?
it's such a good question, and it's a question that can't be answered with a simple um, piece of advice. I think because each of us are kind of wired up in our own unique ways. We each are kind of maybe refueled by certain things versus drained by other things. And so, what might be restorative in one person's system might be more depleting in another person's system. And so, there's not a quick and easy answer to that question. And I would say, if I were to put it in a nutshell, maybe it is noticing the impact it's having on our nervous system, because it's really about the accumulation of things. And so, as I'm moving through my day, I'm experiencing like energetic um, shifting going on. And if I've had too many stressors that are maybe kind of like piling up on me, I may be having a harder time finding my way back into a resource state or gaining access to how we've been talking about the ventral energies, which are those resourced energies that help our mind body experience know that we're safe. And so, to the degree that I know that I'm safe and I'm experiencing a little bit of stress, or I'm safe and I'm facing a challenge, I may be still in pretty good shape. But at some point, if I'm so stressed that my nervous system is having a really hard time hanging on to a felt sense of safety, things are going to start unraveling on me. And they're going to start unraveling both in terms of my own ability to cope with the things that I'm trying to continue to stay engaged with. Again, whether that's like staying focused in my workplace, whether it's picking up my kid and running them to their next activity. My ability to be fully present is going to be compromised if I'm getting into enough of a protective energy state in my nervous system. And then that doesn't even account for all of the contagious energy things that we've been talking about in our recent episodes. And so, if my nervous system is stressed and now I'm picking up my child, and then they're picking up on my stress, and now maybe they're having a stress response to my stress, and then we're kind of pinging off of each other. There's all of these things that are going on for people. And so, so coming back to like in a nutshell, if I'm managing to stay regulated and resourced with the things that are on my plate, then I'm probably in a space where the things that I'm selecting for myself and my family are, they're just good things. But when I'm getting into the zone where too much of a good thing is still too much, I may be crossing over into that place where we're facing a pretty chronic stress pattern, and that contagious energy is becoming more co-activating than co-regulating on a regular basis, and our like individual systems and our family systems are having a hard time finding their way back to feeling safe, secure, present, enjoying each other's company, just having like that high quality experience that we all want for ourselves and each other.